Good morning, everyone. My name's Randall from Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab, providing tips on language learning, culture, and human development. And I'm really excited. We're going to have some wonderful guests joining us today. They're all muted for the moment, but I want to introduce a couple of things that have come up and some things that I've done over the past year. Number one, I did an episode 45. And this episode was talking about how the pandemic has really reshaped our lives, the way that we see our teaching, the way that we've adapted and changed. This was an excellent episode with Esther from Argentina, Sudeep from Nepal, and we had Paulina from Costa Rica. It was a wonderful episode. And also, I had an episode at the beginning of this year. It was episode 39 with Nezreen from the US, Elaine that is joining us from Brazil, Victor from Mexico, Glenn Penrod from the US, and Carol from Costa Rica. And in that particular episode, we talked about the highs and lows of 2020, some of the things that we have learned about ourselves, about our teaching and our students. And the reason why I'm bringing this up today is if by chance you would be interested in participating in a broadcast that I am doing here in a few weeks at the beginning of January. If you're a teacher and you would like to share some of the highs, some of the lows, the things that you've learned about yourself, about your students, about the world around you, that would be great to have you as part of that episode. So please let me know if you're interested. Contact me, send me a private message, and I would be happy to include you. We can see people that are joining us from different parts of the world. We have from Tunisia. Some of you might recognize these names. We like to welcome all of you, Joseph, and so forth. So again, thank you very much for joining us at the beginning of this episode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of our guests, wave for us. Guests, just wave. Okay, and I'm going to put you backstage right now. And then we're going to start our particular broadcast because we have other people from Turkey and so forth joining us today. So again, I put my guests in the backstage. We're going to start like we usually do with all of these broadcasts, introducing our episode. And here we go. Hi, I'm Randall from Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab, providing tips on language learning, culture, and human development. And I think that holiday traditions and festivals and everything that we do at the end of the year is really deeply woven into the fabric of our families, of our communities, where we often celebrate and commemorate important events in our cultures, in our lives. And in today's episode, I'm really excited to have really special guests. I have special guests from the Ukraine, from Ines from Tunisia, Carolina from Mexico, and Elaine from Brazil. And so we like to welcome all of you for joining the broadcast today. So turn on your mics and let's get to our episode today, because we're really excited about what we're doing. And let's go ahead. Elaine, I'm noticing some background sound that might be, let me just check here. Yeah, it sounds like that background sound is coming up. No problem. Go ahead and do any adjustments you might need to. But we're going to go ahead and start. Again, I'm really excited about having Carolina from Mexico and Elaine from Brazil and from the Ukraine and Tunisia. So let's go ahead and begin. Just some simple introductions, and just to let people know what we're going to do today. We're going to, number one, have introductions of our guests to tell us about themselves. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the function and role that holidays play in the lives of our families and communities. And during the broadcast, we want you, those that are watching the broadcast, to participate, to share your ideas. We'll talk about what holiday celebrations are held around this time of year, what people do, how these end-of-year festivities are celebrated in our local communities, in our schools, in our homes. Our guests are also going to talk about special foods that they prepare, that they eat, that could be different from family to family, from the house next door to your family, and from city to city. We'll also talk about in what ways have holiday traditions evolved over time from when people were growing up to what it looks like today. And then what we're going to be interested in hearing is how teachers can create lessons. And I think this is one of the things that teachers will be very interested in hearing. Again, the diversity of the panel today. How can we instill a greater, deeper appreciation for cultural diversity around the world? Because really, our goal today is about how to learn, how to appreciate the broad spectrum of experiences and cultures around the world. So let's go ahead and get into those introductions with our panelists today. And let's just go ahead. If you could lead off, Kotsia.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Randall. This is a pleasure to be here. So I am Kostya. Well, my full name is Constantine, but I feel like maybe you can call me Constantine when I'm like 60 years old, but for now I'm just Kostya. I am from Ukraine, born and raised. Moved to the United States about 10 years ago. I live in West Jordan, Utah, which is a suburb of Salt Lake City. The capital of Ukraine is Kiev. Again, Kiev is more like the Russian pronunciation of the capital. The reason why it's spelled that way in the picture, it's because that's the Ukrainian pronunciation, which is Kyiv, which, interesting fun fact. So yeah, and here in the picture you see these are some. This is one of the biggest churches in Ukraine, but I'll definitely talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, this is an example of an Orthodox Christian Orthodox church where people go not only for Christmas but other holidays.
All right. And again, when people think of the Ukraine, I mean, it is a very large country and there's a lot of diversity as well.
Absolutely. So here in the picture you see this is more like, and I should have mentioned, obviously we have like the eastern part, which is more Orthodox, and the western part, which is more Catholic. Western part has a lot more. I think Western part is actually kind of more beautiful, even though I'm technically from the east. So these are the Carpathian Mountains, and we have. I mean, it's just really. I just wanted to include that picture so that people know it's not just like busy apartment buildings and everyone's busy. We also have a lot of resorts and stuff like that where people go skiing and yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that. And just so you're aware, we have a number of people are joining us today. Yosef is joining. Again, a number of people from Turkey. Again, as you're joining the broadcast, please let us know from where you're engaging us. We have Juan from Mexico. As some of you might recognize these as students, we have Jorge from Tampico. One of our friends, Monique, is joining us as well. So again, feel free if you're joining the broadcast and you're sharing, please let us know where you're from. And again, during the broadcast, we hope that people will engage and participate in the topic today. Let's go ahead and Enos, if you could just tell us a little bit about where you're from and your work.
Oh, hi, Randall. Hi, everyone. So I'm from Tunisia, as you can see in the pictures. And Tunisia is just a small country in North Africa. And these are some of the places we can show you about Tunisia. So, for example, here there is the beach. You can see that one. We have the beach. We have the desert. We have an Islamic culture. We have many places. So you can see it's a variety of cultures all together. And it's a very tourist place. So many people go and visit our country every year. So this is my country anyway.
All right. And thank you very much. And if we could go ahead and Carolina, if you could just introduce yourself and then we'll follow up with Elaine.
Okay, so thank you for introducing me. My name is Carolina. I am from Mexico, specifically from my beautiful state of Tamaulipas, in Altamira. And maybe some of you already know Teacher Jorge because he has been a guest here. So we are just like across the street probably, and Miss Monique. But I am a teacher here. I teach at university, and well, I just love being here and sharing with you. And I have been a teacher for around for about like 3 to 4 years, and this has been one of the most exciting opportunities just to share with you.
And great. And again, as we're seeing different people that are joining us from Peru, from Tunisia, from Guatemala, from Costa Rica, it's wonderful to have such a wide diversity today. And Elaine is joining us from Brazil. Elaine has been on the broadcast a number of times. Always appreciate your voice. So go ahead, Elaine,
Yeah,
introduce yourself.
thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for having me here, having all of us here. It's such a pleasure being here every time. It's such a inspiring and enriching opportunity because we can deal with so many people from so many countries, and I've learned so much, and this is really amazing. So thank you so much. Well, guys, I'm an English teacher, of course, and I've been teaching adults for 18 years now. A little bit before the pandemic, and a year before, in fact, I started teaching English just online, right? And that gave me a real good background because when the pandemic came and hit us all, I wasn't caught by surprise. So it was really interesting to be able to even help some of my coworkers and people who also teach English here in Brazil. I speak from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have lots of fun today.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And again, it's great to see a number of people joining us. So let's go ahead and begin. And Kelsey, if you could just lead us off to talk about some of the traditions that people have. And this is just a reminder for those that are watching the broadcast. We're encouraging you to share your own traditions, the special foods, the special celebrations. But what I want to start with is just a broader question about what is the function and role of holidays in the lives of people in your local community and your families. And we're not talking about one single tradition or custom, but on the broader spectrum of ideas. Ines, could you share what is the function or role of holidays at the end of the year? And then I'll ask Kochia as well.
Well, actually, it's not only for the end of the year. Holidays are always a fun time, so people can just refresh their energy. They can go back to work with plenty of energy, plenty of effort. They can just do the work up more appropriately. So we need a break every now and then to get ahead in life, like you said, all the time. But for the end of the year, it's actually we don't really celebrate that so often, but we cannot grasp that opportunity of celebrating or of enjoying a holiday because we need holidays. We actually want to jump on each occasion of having few days of rest. So maybe it's just a period of happiness, a period where everyone can just see festivities, parties, people celebrating. So that's the holiday for me, I guess, and especially the end of the year. Maybe also it's a kind of a good omen because we are receiving a new year. So if we are happy, we're gonna have a good year afterwards. So that's why maybe that we are wishing to have a happy new year, inshallah.
Great, and thank you for sharing that. Recharging our batteries, I think, is important. Kochia, any thoughts on that?
Thank you. Yeah, I love the recharging. Yes, absolutely. I think, and again, don't quote me on that. Maybe not everyone will agree with me, but I feel like it's great to have both religious and secular holidays. Like, for example, we have Independence Day, and it's great to become more celebrate your patriotism, and just there's so many different holidays, and I feel like even if you're a not religious person, because I know, well, for example, Christmas is not, well, some people celebrate it as a religious holiday, others celebrate it as more like a, I don't know, a family holiday. So I feel like it's a great opportunity to kind of be with those who are religious and, be with those who are or are not religious, and just a great way to spend some time together as friends or family, whether or not you have family. So.
And I really appreciate that idea of casting a broad net to so many people who celebrate it in different ways. And again, I think Elaine and Carolina would agree the idea of a family is so important in this particular time of year. So thank you very much. Again, through the broadcast, feel free, if you're watching, to share what holiday traditions mean to you. And we'll just go ahead and get into the broadcast and get into some more details about what holiday traditions are celebrated, and the different types of foods that people prepare as well. So Kotsia is going to lead us off with this. So let's talk a little bit about what end of year holidays there are and some of the foods that might be tied to that holiday or could be eaten during different parts of the year as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I do want to mention that Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, and which collapsed in 1991. So over the years, some people were, they would stick to the traditions and they would kind of follow the traditions. But the younger you are, I would assume, the less traditional you are. So here in the picture, so you can kind of see foods that are like, for example, at the left, bottom left picture, that one is called borscht. It's a traditional, well, people call it beet soup, because there you put beets and onions and carrots, but the reason why it's so red because of beets. I would say that's not like a New Year's or Christmas dish at all, unless you live in America and you're like, oh, I miss my country, so I'm just gonna make something Ukrainian, which I do sometimes. So just to be clear, that is not a New Year or Christmas celebration. But at the same time, if people do make that, that's totally fine. The next one is called deruni. They're basically pancakes made out of grated potatoes. Some people might make them for Christmas or New Year, some may not. That really depends. The third picture, this is when, so I went home almost exactly a year ago, and my mom made some food. She spent like literally half the day cooking, or maybe even the whole day. You can see a bunch of salads, and she wanted to kind of branch out and do something unusual. In her own words, she's like, I'm so tired of like sticking to the tradition. She wanted to do something different. So she made like a kind of like a quiche and with like cheese and mushrooms, which is like a very unusual Christmas or New Year's food. But yeah, it really depends. There is one thing that's very traditional. It's a specific salad called olivier. That's like, I think that's kind of has been passed on from generations to generations. But as I mentioned earlier, the further, I guess, the younger you are, probably the less traditional you've become. But those are some foods that I personally really like, and whether or not they're traditional, I'll probably make them for New Year's or Christmas.
Okay, and thank you very much. And as we start thinking about these ideas, in addition to foods, talking about other holidays and celebrations, and I think in the preparation for the broadcast, you mentioned about the East and the West, and maybe how there are some differences in how things are celebrated. Could you expand on that just briefly?
Absolutely. So if you are like, very traditional, especially if you're from the West, you would, there is a tradition that's a very, very Ukrainian tradition, that you're supposed to make 12 different dishes. And we've never, in my family, we've never made them. That was not ever a part of the tradition. But I know I have some friends from Western Ukraine who do. I mean, it's a lot of work can you imagine like preparing 12 dishes for Christmas? That's a lot of work. So not everyone does that, but that is a tradition. Where I'm from, which is kind of between central and eastern Ukraine, you kind of, we don't make the 12 dishes, but we just kind of, usually you either hang out with your family, and I should have mentioned, that. So in terms of the East and West, because of the different, even though Ukraine is overall a Christian country, we do have two different branches: the Orthodox, which is the East, and Catholic, which is the West. And because of that, we technically celebrate two Christmases. So if you are from the West and if you're Catholic, you would celebrate it like on December 25th. And if you're more Orthodox or East, you would celebrate it on January 7th. Some people celebrate both, just an opportunity to, why not celebrate it Christmas twice?
Why not? And Mona from Tunisia is commenting at 12 dishes, a variety to choose from.
And a lot of work. I would assume a lot of people don't make those because it's just too much work. But I'm sure I've tasted some of them. I've lived in Western Ukraine for a little bit, and some people they are very traditional, and they make those 12 dishes, and that it's been great. Yeah.
All right. And we've heard from different people from, again, greetings from the Dominican Republic. We've had people from Peru, Guatemala, Costa Rica. And so if you're watching, feel free to share some of the favorite dishes that you enjoy around the holidays and other traditions as well. And the last thing, Kotsia, if you could just share what it means to you in terms of family.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I don't really, I know some people celebrate Christmas, and as a religious holiday, some people view it as a more of a secular holiday. These are some pictures of my family. So here on the left, you see my brother with his family, and on the right is my niece. But yeah, it's just a great opportunity to get together as a family. Not necessarily. I feel like it's not really about, whether or not you're religious. I feel like it's not. For me personally, not as much about, not necessarily going to church on Christmas, but it's more about spending time with those who I've missed. But yeah, that's me personally. So if someone disagrees with me, that's totally fine.
No, and I would think if I could bring in Elaine for a minute, just talking about the broader question of family during the holidays. What does it mean to you, Elaine? And we'll bring you back to talk specifically about Brazil, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's very meaningful to me, particularly. It means a lot. Christmas time is the time to get together with your family and celebrate and have an exchange, not only gifts, which are really nice, but to exchange experiences and sometimes relatives you haven't seen throughout the year because of the lack of opportunity or anything. And then you meet at the end of the year, and then you share how did your year go and how do you feel about it. And especially last year, I lost my grandma due to COVID, so it was really kind of hard. And then again, we couldn't get together for Christmas because of that, and then it was really kind of painful. So I hope this year we can get together. I hope so.
All right. And I appreciate you sharing that, Elaine, and sorry for the loss of a family. That can be really hard. And as you feel appropriate, weave in some ideas on how the pandemic has impacted your holidays as well. Let's go ahead, Carolina. Let's go to Mexico. Let's talk about holiday traditions there, food and other.
Okay, so here is little Carolina. Thank you for sharing this picture. And this is something that is traditional. If somebody out there has kids, or if they were in a celebration like this, having our little we have a very specific name for this. This, like, we reenact the birth of Christ, and we do this little play where we act. Essentially, we give everybody a character. Somebody's an angel, somebody like the devil, somebody's baby Jesus, and everyone has a play, like just like a role in this play. And we tend to just like have fun and interact with our partners, with our classmates. And obviously we have the traditional like dance and the traditional dance or like party, like our posada, where they bring like a Santa Claus, a person like that is like Santa Claus. We exchange gifts, we dance, like we have like El Burrito Sabanero and like these songs that are like an icon in Mexico and like are iconic. We have like El Burrito Sabanero, El Camino, like, well, it's the same one. Los Peces, like I don't know, we have so many songs. And we are basically like performers during this time of the year because we do so many activities for school or for for church. We have these wonderful celebrations, and that's baby Carolina just jumping into these activities.
And it seems like a blending of religious, non-religious, the Santa Claus and so forth. And you mentioned about exchanging gifts. Kostya said, if I remember, Kostya, that Christmas is not necessarily as much as exchanging gifts, but New Year's is perhaps more prominent. What kind of gifts, Carolina, would you expect?
Well, as a child, I would expect like a Barbie or like some sort of toy that I could play with, like in my time. Because I imagine that children nowadays want laptops or like tablets. Like it's way more expensive than it used to be for when I was a child. But
Wow, laptop.
yeah, like a laptop or like mom, buy me the PlayStation 5 because it's just right on like at the top of my list. But nowadays, I just expect socks and peace for for my like Christmas celebration.
Oh, that's great. And let's talk again, as Kotsia mentioned, about some of the traditional foods, not only at the end of the year, but throughout the year. Let's talk about some foods that people might eat throughout the year or at the end of year.
Well, here we have something that everyone who is Mexican, or maybe if you are from another country and you can say, I know that, we have carne asada. Like people, if it's, for example, today we're celebrating like Virgin Mary's celebration, like the day, and like El Día de la Virgen de Guadalupe. So my mom is actually called Guadalupe. So if we celebrate, we will probably be celebrating with like a carne asada or with something. But this is something that everyone celebrates in Christmas. They either do tamales, they prepare tamales, or they do they organize a carne asada with their family members. And obviously we have like quesadillas, we have like steak, we have onions right there on the grill. Or people who prefer to do it in a more like formal setting, or they want to sit around on the table, we can just get into chicken, and maybe some people do turkey, and we just like sit around our tables and gather around with family, and we just eat these with mashed potatoes, with like side dishes.
Okay. And one of the things I really want to point out is Taco Bell is not Mexican food. I mean, you have to be really careful because sometimes we have imprinted in our minds of an experience that we've seen that we think that, that food that you see in one country is going to be the same as another. And that's not the case. But Mona asks, carne asada, Mona from Tunisia. Thank you, Mona, for the question. And what is it made of?
Well, carne asada is just basically like the translation of like putting a piece of meat or like beef on a grill, like on you can do it outside, and you just bring out a grill, you put a little bit of coal under there, and you just put the meat and like flip it to the other side, and that is basically carne asada. And then
Okay,
the side dishes and that's all. Mhm.
So do you deliver to Utah? I think Kotsi and I live in Utah. Can you deliver?
I would go for you, for both of you. I would go there, but I think that, like you said, Taco Bell is something that people say, like Mexico, Taco Bell, like taquitos. But they only or some of the difference is that they use like tostadas, which is like a crunchy type of tortilla, and in Mexico we use like the soft tortilla from the store, like from the place in front of us. And that's what people say, like Taco Bell. I would never like they get so like offended. But no, it's practically the
It's
same.
not real Mexican food, but it's amazing. Come on. Don't
It
go
is
talking
Elaine.
about Taco Bell.
It is so late. I will never talk about Taco Bell, but people are like, oh my God, I feel like I'm fainting right here.
No.
But no, we have to, it's a tostada.
There are videos on YouTube where like people from Mexico kind of taste Taco Bell food, and they're like, "Oh, is this like real or not real Mexican food?" And a lot of them like make fun of it. It's just pretty funny.
Right.
It
Well,
is.
great. A couple of comments that are coming in. Tamales, someone mentioned there. Los Domingos de Barbacoa.
Barbacoa, that's true. Thank you.
Yeah. And from the Philippines, here's a comment that's come in the Philippines. Christmas is the most favorite national holiday, especially for children, because it's when they receive Christmas gifts and lots of money from their parents, relatives, godparents. Most Filipinos start decorating their homes with Christmas decor in September. Wow, that's quite early. And that's great. Thank you so much.
In the Philippines, they have these beautiful lights. They have a festival that they make these giant round Christmas lights that I forgot the name, but it's amazing. This lady who just mentioned well, I hope she comes up and tell us the name of the festival. I forgot, but I was just teaching this week, so this is why I know. And it's beautiful. They go all the way into Christmas, into decoration, even more than the U.S. It's crazy and beautiful.
Oh, wow. And thank you, Elaine, for sharing that. It's great to have the tapestry of ideas woven together and so forth. And I appreciate Kotsia sharing your thoughts, Carolina. And what we're going to do is we're going to go now from Mexico and take our next adventure to Tunisia. So let's take Ines, talk about Tunisia for us.
Well, actually, in Tunisia, it's simply, as I told you earlier, it's just another opportunity to celebrate, to have a holiday. So during that period, we simply gather, we just get together, we go out, we spend some days off in a hotel or in any place. We go to the mountains, we go to motels. I don't know, it depends on the person, it depends on the family. But it is usually a time where families should get together, and usually the New Year's Eve. So we celebrate that period just one day, which is
And
the
just so
New
you know,
Year's Eve.
sorry, Ines, everyone
Yeah.
can see on the screen where it says label. I was trying to put a label to this to describe the food there. So that's what it means. Perhaps you can share what that is.
Yeah, that is just the New Year's Eve dinner, just a family dinner, just dinner, because we usually that's what we do the night of the New Year. We simply get together or we go out, we have dinner out, and then we celebrate it. That's it. So that's the only thing we do because we are not really Christians. You know that Tunisian people are mostly Muslims. We have just a minority of Jewish people living in here. So most of us don't really celebrate Christmas because it's not really a religious occasion. But we celebrate the happy moment of ending up a year and starting up another one. That's it. Okay?
Okay, great.
Anyway.
And let's talk about couscous.
Yeah, so this one is our end of the year. So you know that Muslim people have a different calendar. So the Muslim calendar, or we call it in our Tunisian language, we call that the Arab calendar. So you know that we have a Hijri year. That means that's another type of timing for us. So at the end of every year, we have to celebrate that, and all the Arab countries, all the Muslim countries celebrate that. In my country, each place, each region celebrates it in a different way. For my own hometown, we celebrate it in this way. So we prepare usually couscous, which is particular to us, and that one is made up of candies, sweets, eggs, I don't know, dates, chickpeas.
You're talking about the one to the right, right?
It's the same. You see,
Okay.
you can see it both in both pictures. You can see the couscous. You know, Randall, you are really knowledgeable about couscous nowadays. Okay, so you know that. Can you
All right,
see
and
this?
so what else is in couscous? What other things do you find in it?
So this one is special because it's a mixture of sweet and savory things. So the way it's cooked like in a savory way, but the things on it are sweet. So it's a mixture of sweet and salty food.
Wow.
It's also made up of some things that we recorded from the harvest of last year, so that we guarantee the continuity of the richness or the wealth of last year, and we continue with it to the next one. We also put some sweet things on it because we are trying to hope for a sweet year. That's it. That's the meaning of this one. I'm kind of superstitious in a way.
Okay.
Okay.
And as you're thinking about this, we're going to talk about this slide right here. I want Kotsia and Carolina and Elaine to be thinking about, in addition to foods, what types of music, what types of games, what type of other activities outside of that do you do? Just be thinking about that. But Ines, let's talk about these candy dolls.
Okay, so we have the couscous with candies, with the sweet things on it, but we also have this one, which is very typical to my home town, which is Nabil, that is found in the northeast of Tunisia, where the Hammamet is located. So this place, this one, if you can see, these are dolls. They are made up of sweets, of sugar, you see, and we shape them in different ways. You can find dolls for girls. You can find I don't know, many shapes like that. For boys, you can find animals like horses, cocks. You can find, I don't know, dogs, anything, any animal you can imagine. And then we should put them in a container. It has that shape. It is like that. It's like a dish, but it has a leg. You see, that is very typical to our country, to our hometown. And then I put the doll in the middle, and it should be surrounded by all the other candies, also dry fruit, everything. Nowadays,
like-
they put chocolate in it. they put very expensive sweets, candies, chocolate on that. So people who are really young, people like me or me, even younger, they are using that. But
It looks like
traditionally,
she's
it's like
very
that.
protective of that little doll. Like, don't even touch it. Don't even get
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, you know what, Randall? This is the third year, and my daughter buys the same doll. It's actually the same decoration, the same thing, and every year the same thing. So she really loves that.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. What I'd like to do is I'd like to bring in some comments here. Mona says, in Tunisia, we prepare asida, which is a thick cream, and she's talking decorated with different ingredients on top, really tasty. We usually do that on the celebration of our prophet.
Yeah, but
Great.
this is not in the end of the year. This is done in something else, I guess.
Okay, but it
so
is a type of food that
it is
people
also
might
a
prepare.
celebration. Yeah, that's it. And it's not in our hometown. You see, that's a
Okay.
different region.
Okay,
Yes.
but I'm glad that Mona shared it is in a different region. And the nice thing is that to understand that you might be in the same country, but each
Yeah.
region has its regional food. So I'm glad that she brought that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Christmas lanterns. Oh, wait. What's that, Elaine? What do you mean by that? You're using some body language.
Yeah, I'm sorry for using sign language. It's Parol, the name of the lights in the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
They have a giant Parol festival.
All right. And that's great. And Nazreen, thank you for joining us. Cusco's, again, twice a week.
Wow.
Yeah. That's true.
Invite us over.
Right. She actually mentions, Mona mentions, of course, the ingredients. Juan says, looks so colorful and sweet. I think that's referring back to what you said. And so forth. Yes. So that is really wonderful. Now, let me go back. I had a question regarding, we've been talking a lot about food, but what about music and games and activities and dancing? What other things, whether it be in the Ukraine or in Mexico or in Brazil or in Tunisia, do you do?
Yeah, well, in Brazil we have a lot of each state has different traditions. Some places in the northeast don't even celebrate so much Christmas because the northeastern part of Brazil, unfortunately, is still a very poor region. Not all the cities, okay, this would be a stereotype. They're rich in big cities, but the cities in the countryside, people are not able to celebrate Christmas because they can't afford it. So they just don't. But the ones who do, we have a lot of get-togethers and these things. But we have Secret Santa. I think you guys have. I mean, most countries have some kind of that, some kind of tradition like that, where we exchange gifts, which is a very cheap way to give everyone a gift. So I think this is why we do it here. Because when I was a child, Secret Santa was not so popular. It's more popular nowadays. When I was a child, everyone had to give everyone a gift. And this became real expensive, right? Now, in the past, we had a different kind of possibility, but nowadays things became very expensive. And as Carolina said, children want laptops or iPads or whatever, and we can't just afford to give every kid an expensive gift. So we come up with Secret Santa, and this is the main game we play over here.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go on now. And again, thank you, Ines, for sharing. And let's speak about Brazil. And then we're going to talk about a few more questions about how holiday traditions have evolved and what you're doing in the classroom regarding them. So let's go ahead. Elaine, let's talk about Brazil. First of all, here is Christmas dinner, but you just mentioned some other activities that are done there, depending on the region. But let's talk about Christmas dinner. And as we look at these, what are these two foods? Because there's a lot of foods on this table. Perhaps you could kind of speak to those.
Yeah, there's a lot of food. Usually, this is something we have here in Brazil. This kind of culture of having when we have a party, and especially Christmas dinner. We need to have a lot of food, even if there's going to be a lot of leftovers, and even if not, people are not even going to really eat it. Then you need to have a lot of dishes. So we have a lot of things. This was last year in my new house, so it was a small table because we just I had just moved, so I couldn't organize to do many things, make all this food, and I made all these dishes myself. I'm skilled in the kitchen. So and no, apart from the things in the boxes, which are panettone, the three yellow boxes, they are called panettones, which is a kind of sweet bread, let's say, filled with dried fruits, raisins, and these things. Sometimes it's filled up with chocolate, and these only appear on Christmas, so you can't buy them any other time of the year because they're just not available. They're not made. And there are rabanadas, which are, I think that in the northern Europe, I think we have something pretty similar to this, which is fried bread, basically. But then here in Brazil, we, of course, had to go way over and put lots of sugar and cinnamon on top of it. And then we have rabanadas. And these two things are in every Christmas table, most definitely, like, for sure.
Okay. And Kotsia, did you mention earlier before the broadcast that you had something similar to that?
Right. So we have so for Easter we make this Easter bread called Pascha, and it looks just like that, where you have where you put like raisins, and then you put you kind of put some cream on top, and then sprinkle it with some sprinkles. Yeah, and then you're supposed to like. Well, technically, you're supposed to like go to church and have those blessed or something. I know. But yeah, but that's a very big tradition. Yeah.
Well, you can send me some on Easter, and I'll send you panettone on Christmas. How do you like that?
I would love that. I would definitely love that.
And Nazreen is saying she's Portuguese and they're so yummy. She's talking about, again,
French toast. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty similar to a French toast. Yeah.
And thank you for bringing in that, because that kind of clarifies and adds to that topic. What I like to do is to, as we kind of close out today, I want to share briefly what we do. And then what I want to do is I want to discuss how holiday traditions have evolved. And I think what teachers will find interesting is, what are you doing to actually teach, to share, to disseminate some of those traditions in your own family? So we're going to come back to that in a minute. But let me talk just briefly about our family. We live in Utah. I'm not originally from Utah, but that's where I live in the United States. This is our living room. You can see that we generally decorate a Christmas tree. And also my wife has a Christmas village where she has lights in it. So at night they light up. It's very beautiful. She spent a lot of time doing that. And
I have only one of those, Randall. One. She has a village. I'm in love right now, man. Oh my gosh, that's my dream.
Well, you need to then come to our house to spend Christmas, because my wife at night, the whole scene lights up.
Man, goodness. So
usually
pretty.
our family gets together Christmas Eve for a Christmas Eve dinner. Then our children often come over on Christmas Day. Outside of our house, we kind of decorate with some lights. Really, I think important to us to kind of get in the festive mood. And about food, one of the things I started preparing every Christmas is my jalapeno cheese balls. So I take hot peppers and different types of cheese and almonds and wrap them up. And then we deliver those to family and friends. Sorry, Ines and Elaine. Kotsia, you're not too far away. But it's just kind of one of the things that we like to do. And I think all of you mentioned, Ines and Elaine and Kotsia and Carolina, the importance of family in whatever you do. And so for us, I think it's just a time to think about family, to connect, to reconnect, to serve. Sometimes they have what is sometimes popular in this area. I think in many areas, it's called Sub for Santa. It's a program where people identify people in the local community that are in need, and then people actually prepare gifts and so forth to take to that family. It's called like a substitute for Santa. And anything that we do, we try to, connect, to try to help as well. Last couple of questions. In what ways have traditional holidays and customs evolved over the year? Ines and then Carolina. In what way have they evolved when you were growing up and what you expect today?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not only me, maybe everyone now. We're changing habits. We don't really get together so often like we used to be in the past. And families are getting smaller these days because everybody's working. We don't give birth to many children, so our families are getting smaller. So we just jump on those opportunities to get together in those ceremonies, even though we don't really believe in them. Like the one I'm talking about, Christmas. We don't really believe in Christmas, but we want to get together, whether with families or with friends, so that we can celebrate, we can see each other, we can have fun, we can enjoy ourselves, we can refresh our energy. That's it. Okay, so maybe this is an amazing time where we can just relax and enjoy life. You see. That's it.
And I
So as
appreciate you
for the
mentioning it.
music, earlier, Randall, you were asking about the music. So actually, in the Islamic year, if you want, the Hijri year I told you about, at the end of the year we have a typical music, especially in Tunisia. We so often listen to Quran, and we also have some typical music which is religious kind of. And in Tunisia you can hear like things in Arabic. I'm gonna call them like hadra, ziyara, something like that. This is kind of a religious music we listen to. Like you have the gospel, you have the things you hear in church. We are having something like that almost. We think too much about the Prophet Muhammad. We listen to those songs so often in every end of the year. So this is the kind of music we listen to.
And thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that. Carolina,
Mhm.
any thoughts on that? And I'm going to ask Kotsia the same question.
I think we have so many changes, or we have had so many changes like these past few years, especially with COVID. I mean, we used to, like, I think that Elaine mentioned it, that talking about sometimes the general feeling during Christmas, and we're used to feeling happy, and we're used to feeling this joy and these expectations of like a great dinner. But sometimes it's also like a specific day just uh, to to be with your family and to remember everything you've gone through during the year, because it has been such a difficult couple of years, even because somebody lost their job, because somebody lost a family member. It's just something that for me has been tremendously difficult. My grandma passed away too, um you mentioned, and it's just something that we remember, but in such a nostalgic and sad way. And it's also useful to just be with your family and to really say, what if next year we're not here? So we should make the most out of this celebration, even
Yeah.
if you give it a religious undertone, or if you give it just like a party sort of celebration. Being with your family right now is the most important thing that we might never get back.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you
Absolutely.
for mentioning.
That is
Kotsia,
perfectly.
any thoughts on that? And before you do that, again, some comments that have come in. And Nazarene said, my mom has a village with a fountain and actual water and moving train. That's really interesting. Also, and then we're going to end the broadcast with this particular thought of food makes everyone happy. Talking about it in class and makes even shy pupils talk and express their feelings. We'll look at that as well.
Their
Uh,
feelings.
some
Mhm.
families wait for 12 midnight before having dinner. We call that Noche Buena. And then also Ines, Mona says, yes, Ines, you're right. It's sad, but true. We don't gather as we used to. And I think that's one of those changes that have happened. Any thoughts on that, those particular topics, Kotsia, about traditional holidays? Have we evolved, or the impact of COVID on the way you celebrate?
I'll address the evolution of the holiday first. I feel like when I was little, it would always be we would always celebrate with the family, and then we watch TV. There's usually a bunch of pre-recorded TV programs, and that was like the tradition. Now I feel like, and again, I do want to mention I haven't lived in Ukraine in like 10 years now, so I don't really know how people celebrate it now. I just kind of visit them for a couple of weeks and that's it. So, but I feel like I don't care about those TV programs anymore, as I did when I was a child. I just want to like eat my mom's food and just hang out with my nieces and stuff like that. That's all I care about. But yeah, and that's for me, that's how they evolve. I know some people, I feel like people Nowadays, sometimes people don't even stay in the country. They just go somewhere else. They go to like a resort. Like we go to. I know for Americans, like going to Egypt is like whoa, mind blowing. But for us, like people travel to Turkey, to Egypt, or somewhere else just for Christmas or New Year's, just to celebrate like in a warm climate or something. Some people go outside and just watch fireworks. Others stay at home. I don't think that has changed, but I feel like more people maybe travel more. But again, don't quote me on that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And the last question I think would be important for everyone. I know that each one of you is teaching differently. Elaine, you're a private teacher teaching online. Some of us work face-to-face with students. But the question I have, and we're going to start with Elaine and then Ines, how can teachers create lessons on holidays that instill a greater appreciation for not only the cultures and traditions of their own country, but also the wide diversity we find around the world?
Yeah, first of all, when I plan the classes, I usually try to keep the US out of it, any classes, because students always associate English to the US, and it seems like it's the only English speaking country in the world, and they just go to, oh, but what about the US? And I'm like, okay, chill, you see the US on movies everywhere. Let's talk about other countries. There's so many countries in the world, right? So come on. A class I prepared, and this is why I know about the Philippines, because I didn't know about that before. And I prepared a class on about 20 countries in the world and how they celebrate Christmas. Even like Ines said, right? In Tunisia, they're not Christian, but they still have a kind of celebration. So, and my students were like, oh, wow, they celebrate Christmas. And it's very interesting to see the look on their faces, because all they think is like, okay, Jesus, Santa Claus, no, period. That's it. So they associate it. So I try to show them completely different things. And as someone commented here, talking about food is a good idea. So I try to talk about their favorite, their traditional food for the holidays, and about the culture. What do they do if they get together, if they're Christian or not, and how do they deal with that? Because the whole world kind of stops for these days. So even the non-Christian countries even celebrate. And there's an interesting thing that I've learned while preparing this class, is that Japan is not a Christian country, but they celebrate Christmas going to the KFC. and that was something that hit me. They stand up in line to get a KFC box for Christmas. And I'm like, what? Come on, stay home. Go eat anything else. No, but they really ordered their boxes in advance or stay hours in line to get KFC for Christmas. So, I mean, I had no idea about that. And we only kind of focus on just the United States. I mean, I love the US. I've been there. I live there. Every time I can, I travel and I can afford it. But hey, that's not the only place in the world. That's not the only English speaking country. And that's not the only country where we can get cultural references from. So I just try to blend in and show them really different things, so they can be like shocked and impacted, and they will be interested, of course, in learning English, right? With this.
And I appreciate you mentioning that. And that's why one of the reasons why I really appreciate Ines coming on as well, is because sometimes the cultural traditions of other countries are lost. We don't emphasize enough the richness of the diversity. So Ines, if you could share some of the things that you do to teach holidays.
For me, first, as a child myself, before being a teacher, and even my students were children, so we are used to the character of Santa Claus, if you want. Here in Tunisia, we call it Papa Noel, and we know that person is kind of a good guy, and he's
like in Brazil.
It's
the same name.
Exactly. And it's kind of a cartoon character who gives you what you wish. This is something amazing for me as a child. I used to love that person, even though I was not Christian, and I am not actually Christian. For my students, the same thing. That is first. So we know that we have been used to the picture of those people, of Santa Claus and all those things. Second, in our programs, in our Tunisian programs, official ones, we have many lessons about Christmas. We have many lessons about how holidays are spent in the US, how holidays are spent in England, how holidays are spent everywhere around the place. So actually, every year we teach about holidays. So it's not something new. For me, I try to use the materials I have. And if it's not clear for them, I would use my best, maybe videos, maybe teamwork. I don't know. I can use anything that makes that cultural aspect clear to my students. I can bring it out bring it on into the classroom so that they can understand. We have people like that. We can be like them. We can share those celebrations, and that's it. You see, that's the what's happening for me. You see.
And I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Kotsia, Carolina and Kotsia, any thoughts about any micro lessons or anything that you do to provide those experiences with your students? If you could go ahead and speak, Kotsia.
Right. I just wanted to say when I teach, well, I don't really teach specific, like we don't really talk about holidays before the holidays. We just kind of, if it comes up, then I always try to teach my students that it's okay not to believe in Jesus. It's okay not to believe in any religion at all. Sometimes it's like here in the U.S., it's like people always assume, oh, if you're not Christian, then you believe in something else. I feel like it should be okay to believe in something else or not believe in anything at all. And I feel like it's important to understand that some cultures, like for example, a lot of my students are Chinese, and culturally, a lot of them, especially the younger generation, fewer and fewer of them are actually religious at all. And I feel like it's okay to teach your students to respect other cultures, even if they are completely different. It's like it's okay to celebrate Hanukkah, it's okay to celebrate Christmas, or it's okay to celebrate none of them. And I feel like I think Ines, you mentioned earlier something about, I don't remember which holiday it was, where you kill sheep or something like that. And I think it's important
we kill the sheep. Yeah,
it's important to teach your students that even if you might disagree or you might think it's weird or whatever, it's important to teach to respect other cultures. Even if you completely, like you say, sometimes students are like, how could you not believe in Jesus, right? It's okay, right? Or how can you, like, let's say, kill a sheep? I'm like, okay, well, it's just a tradition, and whether or not you agree with it, I feel like it's important to teach your students that there's diversity. And you don't need to like make fun of other cultures or think, oh well, this is my culture is better, right? Because we don't do all of these weird things. It's important to teach your students to respect.
That's true, because I was working with many students from Poland, and the first time I just found out that people can decorate eggs with my students. So I was, what is that? How do we decorate eggs? What is that useful for? And then I understood with them that we need to do this for that reason, So we understood and we accepted each other. We tolerated those partners from Poland and other places in Europe, you see?
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And thank you, Kotsia, and thank you, Ines, because really what we're looking at is we're just trying to help students develop a greater appreciation, a greater respect, a greater understanding, because the way we think often affects the way we act toward other people. And the more broader that we understanding of world cultures around us, I think we can have which can lead to, I think, a more gracious and compassionate humanity. So thank you. Carolina, any last thought on that about what you might do?
Yeah, I think that you brought up some wonderful topics like Ines about their students, like knowing actually they teach you so many things. They can teach you so many things to you as a teacher. So what Elaine was mentioning also about like the maybe the religious part of these, or like what because it was mentioning about bringing it into the classroom regardless of the or bringing it to the table and letting them decide if they want to like engage in that. But one thing that I would recommend as a teacher, and that I teach from children to adults, is that you have to give them the the information, and have to create activities that they would enjoy. Like if you know that we are talking about Christmas, what about creating a bubble or something with their names on it, and then bringing a story of how were these things conceived in the first place? Or like, for example, Elaine was so excited to find out that we call it Papa Noel. In Mexico, we also call it Papa Noel. Or like the little village. I was like, oh my God, I'm so jealous in a good way of that beautiful village. And if your students are able to say, teacher, this is so interesting to me, like take advantage of that. Okay, so what can I do for my student? I know that Jesus is very interactive, maybe with the hands, like he's very kinesthetic in that. Or maybe what about Johan? Johan is super into listenings. Okay, what if we sing a song and I teach them about this? Or what if we create a play using another culture? This is something that no longer is just about information. We have to give them a fun way to interact with other. I have the fortune of working at two universities. One of these universities, which is UPALT, is very fun, and is very like it brings us these sort of traditions into the classroom. And I have another university where I work at, where they give us these amazing type of lessons that integrate the stories of so many people. And if you manage to create a story, like once you mentioned this, Randall, you said teach them with stories, use stories to engage your students. And if you manage to give them that perception that another person is celebrating with these through fun activities, I think you're in for a really rich class.
And I really, one of the things that have come out of the pandemic, at least for me, is the ability and the opportunity to meet people like you, Ines, and Elaine, and Carolina, and Kostya. Of course, we've worked together over the years because, again, whether you're talking about traditions, whether you're talking about culture, whether you're talking about food, these type of human connections of reaching beyond yourself really is what life is all about. And I really want to thank Ines and Elaine and Carolina and all of you and Kostya for joining our broadcast today, because that is what is important. And Sonia says, accepting each other's differences is what matters, and we have to transmit the message to our students. And I think that's what life is all about. I think, Sonia, you sharing that at the end of the broadcast really is kind of encapsulating everything we tried to do. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining the broadcast. Those of you from home, thank you for being a part of what we're doing. As I mentioned, I do have a broadcast coming up at the beginning of next year that is going to be dealing with kind of a 2.0 of the broadcast I did earlier this year about the highs and lows of 2020. If you're interested in being part of that particular broadcast, please let me know, because I'm looking for people who might join us on a very similar topic. Again, thank you very much for being a part of the broadcast. Again, Ines and Elaine and Carolina and Kostya for being a part. And we want to wish all of you a wonderful day and an even better tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, Randall.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.